Meg 2, The Trench. Anyone hoping that Ben Wheatley might bring some of the exuberant personality and boundary-pushing creativity on display in films like Kill List and In the Earth to his for-hire gig, directing the dismally boring Meg 2. The Trench should find different cinematic waters to swim in. Much as in his atrocious remake of Rebecca in 2020, Wheatley mostly phones it in here, and he does so with a rotary landline. At least until the final half hour, when he's finally free to unleash some monstrous chaos. This is one of the dullest films of the year, a plotting, poorly made giant shark movie that inexplicably lets the giant shark take a backseat to an evil underwater drilling operation. This thing just has no teeth. Never really allowed to have the winking fun he gets from his best action parts. Jason Statham looks visibly bored this time as Jonas, the deep-sea diver employee of the Zhang Institute, the facility that discovered the continued existence of a prehistoric predator known as the megalodon in the first film. The sequel reveals that the research facility has even kept one in captivity to continue to study it. Juming, an inconsistent Wu Jing, the head of the institute, is even convinced that he can train the megalodon, but everything goes wrong when it escapes. And no, this is not just a shark escape attack movie, although you'll wish it was as simple as that. Instead of focusing on the fugitive Meg, who escapes hysterically easily while the crew is focused on something else, the script by John Hober, Eric Hober, and Dean Jorgeris sends Jonas and his crew deep into the ocean to the trench that the megalodons have called home for centuries. On their way into the murky, poorly shot ocean, seriously, Wheatley's answer to recreating underwater photography is just to turn the lighting down. They discover other megalodons, but that's nothing compared to the evil humans who also happen to be in the trench, mining it for resources. Yes, Jonas and his team stumble upon an illegal operation in the middle of the ocean, which leads to their vessels being destroyed. A sequence in which they're forced to walk the ocean floor to a facility is one of the most poorly executed in years. It almost felt real-time. A few personality-less characters get chopped or blown up, but most of the fought tension is saved for Mying, Sophia Kai, who survived the first film and becomes the main creature Jonas tries to keep alive. It's barely a spoiler to say that Jonas, Juming, Mying, and a few others eventually make it back above the surface, fleeing the facility now overrun with soldiers for reasons I couldn't possibly care enough to explain. They head to a resort called Fun Island, and almost 90 minutes into this mess, the trench finally gets a little fun. You see, the underwater explosions destroyed the temperature shield that had kept things like a giant octopus away from tourists. Finally, Wheatley and his team get to have a little fun, but it's far too little and far too late. Even the action-heavy final section of The Trench barely seems like a production trying to have a good time. How do you make a movie about jet-skiing Jason Statham throwing harpoons at giant sharks, and do it with such little joy? This is a bizarrely inert film with none of Wheatley's dark humor or vicious skill with horror. It's almost like he just gave up on doing anything interesting when he found out he couldn't make it R-rated. Cliff Curtis and Paige Kennedy develop a strange buddy comedy action vibe. Later on that almost works, but it feels a different movie from the rest of the action. Absolutely nothing here has stakes. So many people in Jonas World die with barely a nod to the fact they ever existed. And anyone who has ever seen a movie knows who will make it to the final scene. Of course, that's not always a problem. We go to giant shark movies knowing Jason Statham will save the day. So it becomes about execution instead of originality. And maybe that's why Wheatley falls so flat here. It seems like he needs to be able to play with narrative to be effective. And when he's forced into a traditional structure like he is here, he can't put his heart into it. He just checks out and goes through the motions. Even though the movie hasn't made the biggest splash in the US, Warner Bros. Has found a surprisingly decent late summer hit with Meg 2, The Trench. serving as a sequel to 2018's The Meg, with Jason Statham returning to fight more megalodons. The blockbuster has quietly become a sizable hit overseas, particularly in China. With another big weekend in the books, the film has now passed the $300 million mark globally. The only question now is if it will have enough legs to actually become a real hit, or if it will merely avoid total disaster. Critics were not kind to the sequel, to be fair. They weren't really thrilled with the first movie either, and heading into opening weekend, it looked like that might be a nail in this film's coffin. But general audiences seem to like the movie a whole lot more than critics. More often than not, that is the far more important metric. Just look at the Venom movies as proof. Moviegoers around the world just want to see Statham fight big sharks in outlandish ways. As it stands, Meg 2 has a good shot at passing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, $376 million worldwide, to become the 13th biggest movie of 2023 overall. It's not going to match the $529 million take of the original, but the fact that this critically panned giant shark movie is likely going to wipe out Indiana Jones is nothing if not surprising. What a time to be alive. Before leaving, if you are new to our channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos like this. Thanks for watching.